Hi everybody, welcome to Season 2, Episode 16 of Word for the Week. My hubby has gone over the top this week and splitting linguistic hairs. So, what's the difference between confess and profess in the New Testament?
Splitting the proverbial hairs. Well, it had started 40 years ago, and it started with Romans 10, 8 through 10, those verses which are recognized as probably the clearest instructions on how to be saved in the entire New Testament context. So that's where it begins.
I've never been to an evangelistic meeting, probably never has been one that anywhere that hasn't included this passage. So let me go ahead and share that.
You kind of threw me there for a second. I've never been to an evangelistic meeting. I said, oh, really?
Okay.
But now I understand. You've never been to one that you didn't hear this.
Yes.
Be my guest.
Yes.
Read the passage.
Romans 10, 8 through 10. But what does it say? The word is near you, in your mouth and in your heart. That is the word of faith that we proclaim. Because if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. For with the heart one believes and is justified, and with the mouth one confesses and is saved.
And here's how this played into my verbal curiosity, if you will.
Okay.
Is that it just seemed to me that my whole understanding of salvation is and saving, that there's this public declaration. Mm-hmm. And so I was thinking, it always hit me funny. I said, shouldn't it say profess instead of confess? That if you profess with your mouth and it says confess, and I said, man, why the different word?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So you've been obsessing over this word for 40 years.
40 years, yes. I've lost sleep on those nights I'm laying there awake thinking about why did God use this word. So I figured it was time to end the obsession and come up with a restful answer that would give me peace. And so what I did find out, and it was worth it for me, because what I did find out is that not only is the word used there very deliberate, it's that another word really couldn't have been used. It's crucial in how it's used there.
Well, I'm glad your obsession paid off.
It did for me.
But what did you find?
I found out now I'm saved.
That's good, Pastor.
Yes, that was good to have a saved pastor.
Yes.
But this is kind of where when I got so obsessed with this. First, I went to English definitions and Greek definitions, and I found I still wasn't finding out what I needed to know. So then I started taking the words apart and looking at the components of the word, and finally, peace began. So
that is pretty obsessive. So what did you find from the components of the words?
Well, in my obsession, this is what I found out. I'll start usually we start with the original language. I'll start in the English. Because it really helps explain it, is starting with fess. I mean, both words end with fess, and not to make the mistake of s, as in somebody's a princess or whatever. That's a whole other thing. This is fess, F-E-S-S.
So you're fessing up about.
Yeah, that idea is you look at it, right? If I asked you the words, you added one. We're talking confess, profess, and now he's like just fess all by itself. Mm-hmm, now here's one for you. And I bet you with your keen Kathy mind, you'll be able to discern the meaning of this word. How about this one? Okay. Disprofess.
Well, I guess it would be undo what you professed. I mean,
yep.
To renounce something, I guess.
And you wouldn't guess where I came up with some of these. I was trying to break these down. There's whole articles out there on Scrabble so that you can have the best words. Those Scrabble people, they already knew how to be saved. Now I know.
Oh, goodness.
But that is right. Fess in that way is to renounce something. So the root fess, it comes from Latin, like most of our words. And it simply means this, no matter how you're using it. If you use the word fess, is to declare or acknowledge something.
Okay, well, that's fess. So
right.
Now let's add con and or pro to the beginning of that.
Yeah.
What does con mean at the beginning?
Okay. And just before I hit that, you asked a real good question when we were talking and just kind of being honest and real with each other before we hit the camera.
Okay.
But you brought up, is that where pro and con comes from?
Right.
And we say, and it might, except that comes from a Latin phrase, pro et contra, which means for and against. So, and we shorten it to pro and con. So,
Right.
I think it still fits a little bit, but it's a whole other story than what we're talking about, really.
Okay.
So we're talking about con as a prefix on a word, that component you stick on the front of a word to give it meaning.
Mm-hmm. Like congenital, confirm.
Yeah, congenital, confirm. And what it means, con means to join together. So like congenital. How do you
Right.
get a disease because your mother had it or your father, and then you get it.
Mm-hmm.
So it can mean to join together, or simply to intensify the meaning. Like, I want to stand firmly behind your thought, so I confirm what you're thinking or saying. So
Right.
that's where con comes from. Pro, the other Latin little cap for a word, it simply means literally to move forward. So, we think of it, when something is put forward, you'd say, well, that was on the front of my mind,
Right.
or that's my first priority. It's that thing that's in the front. So
Well-
that's where pro comes from.
Oh, cool. It's interesting. What did you find out from all this word splitting?
Well, here's what I found as I looked into it, because if you look into the broader meanings of it, con, to confess, it's dealing with something that's going on inside you,
Right.
and then it comes out, but it really has to do with the state of what you are. Pro is an action word, really. It means to move something forward, to make it, whether it's publicly known, whatever, even professional.
Yeah.
Means that you practice what you preach, in a way, or practice the skill that you claim you have. So this may seem oversimplifying, and yes, it is. I am guilty. But here's where I ended up with it as far as we're using it, is to confess is to acknowledge something inside, and to profess is to declare or take action on something outside. So confess inside, profess outside.
But
But
the Bible wasn't written in English.
oh,
so
don't tell that to those King James folks. They sure
well, does this still hold up in the original language of Greek?
Yeah, and which is an excellent question. And the fact is that in the Greek, the two words are entirely different words.
So bottom line, there's no mistaking when you're translating one or the other.
Right. Yeah. Like, I mean, even though there's this overlap in the, just like confess and profess,
Right.
but there's no way that if you were a professional scribe, translating this stuff, that you'd mix up the two words. They're very different words that they use there. However, just like the English, the overlap between the two words is they both deal with acknowledging something.
Right. So as I'm understanding it, both words are about that acknowledgement, but it's a question of how.
How, right, and the fact, exactly. And just like confession, the word in that original Greek we were talking about was homologeo, and it literally means, well, we all know homo, no matter what you stick on, means same. That's basically, so it's same thing as another. So confession is to be sharing something from inside, the same feelings in the broader meaning. That's, as a matter of fact, before I dig myself a linguistic hole, why don't I get you to read some of the official lexicon on what homologeo means?
Okay, sure. It then means to concede, not to refuse, to promise, not to deny, to confess, to declare, to admit one's guilt. Well, that certainly sounds like the main focus is the inner state of the person. So now how about the word profess?
Okay,
Profess.
as we move from that, and I, if I was a brave person, I'd try and say this word and I know I'm going to get it all wrong.
Better than me.
Yeah, epengalomai. You know what? That is butchered so badly. We'll make sure, at least for those who view the webcast podcast. Sorry, folks, you're on your own. But as far as the webcast, maybe post the word.
Yeah.
But it means this in the Greek. It means to announce, to furnish something, to engage voluntarily, and once again, these are all action things.
Right.
To engage in one's skills, to assert something about oneself.
Okay, so for example, I assert I'm a carpenter.
Mm-hmm.
I'll engage my skills to renovate a house.
Right.
And furnish my own tools to do it. So
yeah, that fits pretty well. Yeah, that's the whole idea. It's the whole idea of the profession in the original Greek is very much a profession. It's a very active word. Yeah.
Okay, so it really does parallel our meaning in English. So confess focuses on the inside condition, while profess focuses on the outside action.
Correct. Now, here's where it starts getting really interesting. I know that maybe some people think, man, that's some dry linguistics going on. But in kind of sucking the marrow out of the words, sometimes you end up doing that. But now,
since you were fretting over it for 40 years.
40 years. The people, you can live with me for 15 minutes. And I'm free. But as we looked at the confession being on the inside, profession on the outside, and we got this understanding, the word confess in the New Testament is pretty interesting. Comes up always in a positive kind of instructional way, as in commandment.
Right.
Profess or confess comes up 12 times in the New Testament. So, for $100 I'll never give you, how many times do you think the word profess comes up?
Well, I mean, they're both important, so I guess I'll just guess 12.
12, and even 12, it's yin and yang. And that's the way I was thinking too, that it must be a balance. But the truth is, profess only comes up twice in the entire 12 confess, 2 profess. And what's even more interesting is, as confess is used in these positive contexts, the 2 times, not that it's a negative word, but the contexts are very sobering or warning context. So even the 2 times it shows up, it's in kind of a negative light. And as a matter of fact, since there's only 2, I thought I'd get you to read both of them, let people see what I'm talking about.
Sure. 1 Timothy 2, 9 and 10. Women should adorn themselves in respectable apparel with modesty and self-control, not with braided hair and gold or pearls or costly attire, but with what is proper for women who profess godliness with good works.
Okay, and right there, just to confirm our suspicions of the words, is that there you go. Profess is tied with an action phrase there.
Right. Okay. Titus 1, 15 and 16. To the pure all things are pure, but to the defiled and unbelieving nothing is pure. But both of their minds and their consciences are defiled. They profess to know God, but they deny him by their works.
Once again, profess is an action word.
I see what you're saying. Both these passages deal with how we show the rest of the world, what we show the rest of the world. So what do you take from all this obsessive word splitting that you've done? I mean, what's the...
Well, besides the fact that I should sleep well tonight.
Yes.
Well, for one thing, it put to rest that whole wording in Romans, like I said, to say that if you confess with your mouth Jesus is Lord, it has to be said that way, because it all starts, and it's telling you, it all starts with what's going on inside you before you start going outside. So salvation doesn't start with what we tell the world. Salvation starts with what we acknowledge within ourselves.
Right.
And in this case, I mean, if we continued on with the phrase, for instance, in this case, the acknowledgement is not just Jesus, but Jesus as Lord. A quick side trail there, Kyrios, meaning the master, the master Kyrios is the one who owns everything, doles out everything, sustains
Right.
everything. So he owns everything, even you.
So it's saying salvation hasn't even started till a person acknowledges inside that Jesus owns them.
Yeah, that's exactly right. It's not. It's wonderful that we're moved to actions and stuff, but it all starts with the inner acknowledgement of who Christ is and really who we are ourselves. And that's all at the core of Christianity. And of course, there's more to the message because that involves the resurrection and divinity and all of that. But in the scope of our issue, we're just trying to let me have a good night's sleep. So we're dealing with confession and profession.
Right.
And the point comes down, like we say, I don't think we could acknowledge this enough. If it doesn't start by what's going on the inside, it doesn't matter what we do on the outside.
Yeah, that's true with so many things. I was thinking even what we eat on the inside is how we're able to accomplish whatever it is that we're doing. I mean,
well, and there's that saying, right? You are what you eat.
right.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
And
I right now I'm a lot of cake. Because you've been making some. Very delicious, by the way.
well, that's good. A final, this is a little bit off the trail.
All right.
But do you think that this is what Paul was talking about in 1 Corinthians? 1 Corinthians 13, 1 through 3. If I speak in the tongues of men and of angels, but have not love, I'm a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. And if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but have not love, I'm nothing. If I give away all I have, and if I deliver up my body to be burned, but have not love, I gain nothing.
Right.
So,
and first off, before I even respond, kudos to you. As boomers that you didn't sing that song, break out your lighter. If I speak, how does that tune go again?
If I have the mountain dream, if I have no charity, that's the chorus.
If
and love does not flow from me, I am nothing. Jesus reduced me to love.
And of course, it has almost the entire chapter in that song.
Yeah.
And so every boomer Christian has, if they know anything, we should know 1 Corinthians 13. We've been singing it for decades.
Right.
So anyway, like we say, I'll confirm that as well.
Yes.
And it's true. Love is an inner nature. Mm-hmm. Love is a fundamental attribute of God.
Right.
So it fits really well in the idea of that is a confession before it's ever profession.
Okay, well, that's cool.
Yes, that is another biblical word.
Cool. Yes, another boomer word. Just a final thought on this. The word concede.
Yep.
Concede was in the definition of confess, right?
Right.
So it struck me that it's also saying salvation is something that is accepted and never earned.
Yeah.
And we're certainly called to action, but without honest acceptance, I mean, there still isn't any salvation.
Right. Exactly. The idea that acceptance. And to me, like I say, after 40 years, I discover that all these concepts that are told to us in other ways, sitting right in the sentence that I was losing sleep over and obsessing on, but it's all in that so deliberate a word. It's just simply amazing. So actions, yes, meaningless. As far as eternal life goes, it starts with the nature, and then the actions are simply the result of the nature. Confession has to come before profession.
Yeah.
So they knew what they were doing when they used the words they did.
That's right. I know this is a lot of word splitting, but maybe worth it to understand a bit more, because I mean, the nature of salvation, it's just so important. I mean,
it's fundamental.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
On to our highlighted
and
music.
Another one of these beautifully not awkward segues at the end of our thing. Yes, now that we beat the dead horse, we're moving on to music now. And we are featuring our good musical friends, the Hackelmans. I'm a fan, love these guys, Sally and Mark, and they did us a huge favor, if you will. At least it was to us. I think it was their glory to God, that type of thing. But instead of our usual music, we had bluegrass praise music for the main part of the music this Easter. It made it very unique, and so we wanted to feature them.
Right. And since it is a little different, we wanted to take advantage of highlighting two songs from Easter week. So
Yeah, and as you go through the week, may you profess what you already confess.
okay, well, be blessed and enjoy, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
On a hill far away stood an old rugged cross, the emblem of suffering and shame. And I love that old cross, where the dearest and best for a world of lost sinners was slain. So I'll cherish the old rugged cross till my trophies at last I lay down. I will cling to the old rugged cross and exchange it someday for a crown. Oh, that old rugged cross, so despised by the world, has a wondrous attraction for me. For the dear Lamb of God left His glory and love to beg to bring down Calvary. So I'll cherish the old rugged cross till my trophies at last I lay down. I will cling to the old rugged cross and exchange it someday for a crown. In the old rugged cross, stained with blood so divine, the wondrous beauty I see. For 'twas on that old cross Jesus suffered and died to pardon and sanctify me. So I'll cherish the old rugged cross till my trophies at last I lay down. I will cling to the old rugged cross and exchange it someday for a To the old rugged cross I will ever be true, its shame and reproach gladly bear. Then he'll call me someday to my home far away, where his glory forever I'll share. So I'll cherish the old rugged cross till my trophies at last I lay down. I will cling to the old rugged cross by the mark where the nails have been, by the mark where the nails have been, by the sign upon his precious skin. I will know my Savior when I come to him, by the mark where the nails have been. A man of riches may claim a crown of jewels, but the King of heaven can be told from the Prince of Fools, by the mark where the nails have been, by the sign upon his precious skin. I will know my Savior when I come to him, by the mark where the nails have been. On Calvary Mountain, where they made him suffer so, all my sin was paid for a long, long time ago, by the mark where the nails have been, by the sign upon his precious skin. I will know my Savior when I come to him, by the mark where the nails have been, by the mark where the nails have been, by the sign upon his precious skin. I will know my Savior when I come to him, by the mark where the nails have been. I will know my Savior when I come to him, by the mark where the nails have been.
You can watch Word for the Week at canancommunity.org. You can also catch our live stream on Canaan Community's Facebook, YouTube, or your favorite podcast app.